Welcome to episode 132 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, back this week after a little illness. Kept me out last week, but the boys filled in very nicely. Let's go around the horn. We got Jason Sayeda.
Hey Tom, what's up?
Jason, how are you? We got Christopher Michael Meeker,
Hello, how are
and
you?
we got Jimmy Chalk down there.
Feels real crowded this week.
I think I referenced him as Chalky White last week in my intro. Um, but
You might have.
he's got many aliases. So
I have credit cards in both names.
okay,
A lot of
Broad,
derivatives of Chalky.
what was that? Boardwalk Empire, Chalky White? Isn't that where he
yeah.
came from?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is correct. All right. This week we got not too much in store here. And we've said this in the past. We will be turning, God help us all, the microphone over to Meeker to lead us in. What is this, week 10? So what's our 17? So a little bit more past the halfway point, but kind of
No, 18,
looking.
That's
18,
18 weeks.
18 weeks,
Okay,
17 games.
17 to 18 weeks. Still a little bit past the halfway point, right? Or no, I guess they just completed the halfway point. So perfect, yeah. So Mika will be running us through some. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. We didn't look at. Nobody saw these questions pre-production, so God knows.
No, they
God
weren't.
knows.
They weren't. What's the name?
They're not,
Scrub.
unlike Walt, they don't need to be necessarily vetted ahead of time for spelling and accuracy.
Wow.
So we will
I
come.
mean, Walt's it's Dallas week. Walt's not here, so I just got to throw
That's
that in.
right. Why isn't Walt here?
I mean,
Oh
yeah.
well, why would he be?
What's there to talk about, really?
Exactly. Well, there's a lot to talk about on his side, I guess. But
Yeah, and then we'll recap the Eagles from last week, and we'll preview them for this week, which we just mentioned is the Dallas week, and then we'll run through picks, and that'll be the show. As always, our sponsor for tonight is Giovanina's Pizza. You tried the rest, now try the best. Okay, Mika, I turn her over to you.
yeah, so like as you said, it's the midway point of the season, so just trying to formulate some questions to take the temperature of the league and what you guys might think about some of these topics here. So. Earlier in the year, obviously, as we started the NFL season in our preview, we picked all our playoff teams. We picked our Super Bowl matchup and our Super Bowl winner. But I'm going to give you a chance of redemption here. So, if you were to change your pick for the Super Bowl here in week 10 or whatever week we're in here of the NFL season, you have a chance to change your matchup. Would you change it? And what would you change it to? And let's start with Chalky.
So, if I remember correctly, my Super Bowl matchup was Cincinnati and Green Bay. Cincinnati's going to have a very tough time. If they lose tonight, they might be on life support for the playoffs at all. So I'll adjust that. Green Bay, injuries back and forth. I mean, the Lions just look so much better than anybody else in the NFC. So it's hard for me to go against the Lions over there. So I would change Green Bay to Detroit. And on the AFC side, I don't want to pick Kansas City. I'll say Buffalo. Buffalo's looked really good. Buffalo's got a couple tough games. We'll see how they fare out through the regular season. I didn't have Buffalo winning the division, and they almost have that locked up already. So I'll say Buffalo, Detroit, if I had to pick them right now.
Buffalo, Detroit. Jason?
So I had the Lions and Bengals. I think I had the Bengals winning. I would still keep the Lions. I'm going to be chalky. I'm going to be Detroit and Kansas City. I mean, Mahomes is just like you don't beat him. You don't beat Mahomes. You don't beat Reed. There's nobody in the AFC that's beating them. Lions just look too good. San Francisco is getting healthier. I still think the Lions are just unstoppable this year. I'd like to see them get Hutchinson back, but I don't know if that's going to happen for the playoffs. So I would go Lions and Chiefs. I would probably lean the Lions beating them, but again, it's Mahomes. I don't know. Who's beating Mahomes?
Tommy.
Yes, I don't remember, to be honest with you. I had
You were in
Houston.
all.
Yeah, I wasn't
Oh
on,
no,
but
you did give, you gave me
I
Yeah,
your
gave
pick.
a
That's
yeah.
right.
prediction. Yeah, I know it was Houston, KC. I think it was Green Bay and the Rams. I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Don't remember
You,
who I had going. Green Bay,
Houston
maybe.
Rams.
Houston
Okay,
and
so
Rams.
I'm not saying that's still not a possibility, but I mean, I would put Detroit at this point. I mean, they just look like the unstoppable team. I still think Houston and Kansas City is going to be in the AFC Championship game, so I would not change that. Um, I mean, I'll stick with Houston because I don't think Kansas City has really been world beaters. Um, so I still like Houston, but I would lean towards Detroit for sure, and I would lean towards Detroit winning the Super Bowl in the Superdome, in that dome, where they can really showcase how they play. So yeah, I would change the NFC.
Yeah, I had the same pick as Jason. I had Detroit and the Bengals in the Super Bowl. I'm going to stick with Detroit for all the reasons we talked about, but I'm going to change my pick in the AFC, of course, given that the Bengals have struggled. And I'm going to say, finally, Baltimore gets over the hump and gets to the Super Bowl this year
They have
against
a different
Detroit.
quarterback
Who's
in the
going to play
playoffs.
quarterback?
He's certainly playing well, though, so I
Yeah,
can't
Again,
doesn't he have two
know,
MVPs?
in playoffs, things kind of change, but I don't know. I don't. Maybe it's just like a team winning three straight, because I don't know that Kansas City would beat Detroit if they played them in the Super Bowl, but a team getting to three straight Super Bowls is kind of a very rare situation. And I know it's the Chiefs, and I know they haven't lost, and there's a lot to say about that, but
You
I
what's
uh,
the
just have
definition of insanity?
a feeling. Well,
you're also in
I
a
know.
rare
I
you're also in a rare era of football where almost every quarterback sucks. Almost everyone sucks except
agree.
Mahomes, and that's why Kansas City continues to dominate. So I don't think you can look at history when you say they haven't made it. Teams don't make it to three straight Super Bowls, etc. I think you're in a. I mean, the league is not good. It's just not a good product, and Mahomes is far better than every quarterback that
And
steps on
Andy
the field
Reid.
every Sunday.
And Andy Reid. And Andy Reid.
And their defense and Spagnuolo.
Their defense is Spagnuolo. That's correct. Yep. Yep.
It's funny that you're saying what you're saying, Tommy, because one of my questions has a lot to do with what you just said. So, by my counts, there are approximately 13 teams that already have no shot at making the playoffs. The NFL loves parity, and they're not getting it this year. They're making a lot of these games moving into the second half of the season kind of meaningless or potential blowouts. Um, what would you attribute that to? Bad quarterback play, bad coaching, injuries? Like, what would you say? And we'll start with you since you brought up that the league's a bad product.
I mean, I can go all the way back to college. That the product that college football teams put out there are the most athletic player on the field plays quarterback and not the best quarterback plays. Hence, then they go into the NFL and they are no longer the most athletic player on the field, that they now have to use their brain and quarterback skills, and they're not capable in this league. A lot of these college quarterbacks, and you just see the same quarterbacks being successful. No new quarterbacks are being successful with the exception of Daniels this year, and that I'm sure is going to fall apart in the next year or so. And you have the Mayfields, the Darnolds, who like all of a sudden look like they can play, but when you watch them play and games are meaningful, Darnold throws in bad interceptions, Mayfield throws bad interceptions, and the only ones are the same quarterbacks. The Goffs that have looked good with under that offense coordinator. Obviously, Mahomes is the best, and that's all you got. You still got Stafford throwing the ball around. I mean, for God's sake, at whatever age he is. So yeah, I just think the quarterback play is so abysmal that and these quarterbacks that ran the RPO type of offense does not work anymore. The defense coordinators figured out the RPO offense, and they're back to pocket quarterbacks that have to distribute the football, and they're not capable.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I actually was talking to Walt. That was probably last week, and I basically said similar to what Tommy said. I think there's 11 good quarterbacks in the league. 11. I wanted to say 10, but then thinking about it, I came to 11. That's the problem. That's less than half of the
And
quarterbacks.
I would bet you by 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they start to be like, quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean they're solid. They're all solid quarterbacks. Like I wanted to cut the number off of 10, and my 11 doesn't even include Rodgers anymore. Not because I don't think Rodgers was a phenomenal quarterback. I just think he's done.
No, he's just old.
So
Yeah.
right, right. So I mean, you know, I mean that's the problem. The quarterback play is bad. The league is a passing league now. The league is all offense, right? And it's bad quarterback play. That's what I attribute it to.
I mean, you're seeing a little bit of a reemergence of like the running backs and the running games because teams have to rely on the run game because their quarterbacks aren't capable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had that conversation with Walt about the 11, right? So actually, it's so funny that you're saying that. I did a list last week. I had Rodgers at 11. Like he was the 11th best quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, well,
And
we
when you
got one
look at,
difference somewhere in there.
yeah. So I don't know, maybe Prescott might have
I didn't
I
have
have him.
Prescott in there. I didn't have
All
Prescott.
right, so I had Prescott in there. So yeah, I mean, when that guy, a 40-year-old guy that missed the season on a team that's 3-6 or whatever they are right now, is your 11th best quarterback in football. And maybe Jaden Daniels will eventually, be ahead of Rodgers, but I can't do that quite yet. Yeah, I mean, if that's your line, and then you get more of like the middling quarterbacks like your Mayfields and Cousins and Murray and Hurts even, so it may be that. I mean, the product is not, it's just not good, and there's just a lot of bad teams in the NFL due to some injuries. I mean, I think some teams have had some bad luck this year. They would have been better, but the quarterback play has definitely dropped off considerably since we were in our 20s. Let's put it that way. In the
But
last 3
but when we were in our 20s, you weren't relying as much on the quarterback,
The,
right?
the,
Because the run
yeah.
game was
The problem is the quarterbacks are making astronomical money and taking up 40% of salary caps or 30% of salary caps. So you have these mediocre quarterbacks that are taking up a bulk of your cap space that they
yeah.
can't build the teams around them. And when the quarterback's not producing, I mean, it just makes your teams even far worse. I mean, forget about even the
Mm.
young quarterbacks. Even like, like you said, the Hurts is making 50 million for whatever it is against the cap, and he's an average quarterback.
Chalky?
I think, I mean, not much to add. The quarterback play would be the primary factor, I think. And I'm like trying to go through my head, like thinking back to like, the last like quarterback to win that really wasn't, you would say is not that good, was probably Foles, right? And then that was a one-off year, and then you had Brady Manning going back. And I'm trying to think like in the 80s, 90s, you had a bunch of these quarterbacks that were like would be at best league average now, right? Washington won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Rippon had like 2 or 3 good years, was an MVP one year, but his average year would not hold up in the league now. Phil Simms not going to hold up in the league now. Jeff Hostetler not going to hold up in the league now. Now, they had great defenses and great lines and everything. But it's a quarterback-driven league, and the best quarterbacks still win. And I would venture, and this is kind of talking out my ass because I'm not analyzing it right now, the gap between the best of the best in the league right now and what constitutes an average quarterback could be so different, so much more of a gap than it was before. Obviously, Montana to me and Montana Marino were always so much better than Phil Simms, just to throw a name out there. But in between there, it was more of I think it was more gradual drop off, and now I mean you're stretching to get to 10 good, and even then, would you think maybe 5 of those guys could win a Super Bowl if you had to trust them?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in a league where Joe Flacco is now a starting quarterback. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad time for quarterback play right now, and if it's because of the way that these quarterbacks are being groomed in college, like you're saying, Tommy, and it doesn't translate to the NFL or won't translate to the NFL now, maybe at first, it was kind of the nichey thing, but now if defenses caught up with that, these guys that are playing quarterback in college, I mean, Jaden Daniels might be an outlier in this whole situation we're talking about, and Stroud last year, but they have a brain. They
Defenses,
know where to put the ball.
what happens is defenses catch up to your play. And I'll even point to this, whatever they want to call it, the rugby scrum that the Eagles do. Defense are starting to stop that a little bit now. Now is it Kelsey's not there, or the defense is starting to figure out how to stop it a little bit? They always figure out how to stop things. The problem is these quarterbacks now can't adjust to the adjustment, right? They're not good enough to adjust to the adjustment.
They don't have the basic skills. They rely on their
Right.
athleticism.
They don't have quarterback skills, correct?
They don't have quarterback skills, right? The reading the defenses, the distributing the ball, the all the pre-snap stuff. They don't have it.
Right.
And it goes back to college because they don't colleges the offenses that they run in college are not even like pro. You don't even see nobody's under center for the most part in college at all. I mean, at least in the NFL, you do see it. And they just don't play that. It's like the old. Remember back in the day, you'd had a couple of those college teams that ran that wishbone offense or the run and gun type of offense, and you would know those quarterback. Oh, that's a college quarterback. He's never going to go into the NFL, and he didn't. And the ones that did were the guys that were like the teams weren't always dominant, but the quarterback ran a pro style offense. They ran the play action, and those were the guys that would. And then the other problem is these quarterbacks come into the league and they play behind bad offensive lines with very poor coaching, and then they get absolutely destroyed. I mean, the sitting for 2 years is gone. Quarterbacks don't sit on the bench and learn. They're thrown into the fire, and who knows if that affects them.
Well, I think that also when you talk about that, it's like there's a short shelf life on when these guys are going to get paid. So these guys want to get the most out of them during the first 5 years of them being in the league. So they're forcing them into these games when they're not ready to be in these games. And it's kind of a money thing. Like when you think of it that way.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the one team that you were completely wrong about? Be it that they're either better or they're worse than you thought they were going to be. And we'll start with Jason.
You want one of each, like one way and one the other?
No, you can do one of each if you'd
All
like.
right.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
it's pretty easy for me. The Bengals are not as good as I thought, and Washington is better than I thought. Now, I thought Washington, and we could go back and listen. Thought Washington definitely thought they were finishing at least third in the NFC, and I'm not sure if I said, "Watch out, they could be a playoff team or not." I'm not sure, but I did think they would be okay. I just didn't think they would be this good.
Gotcha. Chalky?
Yeah, I'm looking. I mean, like Jason, I was bullish on Washington. I didn't see him making the playoffs.
Yeah.
As far as underestimating, I mean, I didn't see Buffalo at 7-2. And then if you want to say
Yeah, but
Jets
I would
at 3-6.
You're in the minority in that though.
I mean,
Well,
I think we all.
I don't think any of us had them in the playoffs, if I remember correctly.
Buffalo.
I have in the playoffs as a wild card. We all had the Jets winning the division, but so
Okay.
Jets at 3-6, and I mean, I think we all picked Jacksonville right now. Houston winning the division is not a shock, but 2-7 Jacksonville. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I thought
definitely-
Jacksonville would be better too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Overperforming Steelers. I mean, they're 6-2. I don't know it's going to hold up, but I thought they were going to struggle to get the 9, and they're almost there. We'll see how they close. But they as far as overperforming, maybe it's the Steelers as opposed to Buffalo.
Yeah, mine was Jacksonville. I mean, I only picked one team that I thought was completely wrong about, and for the second year in a row, I'm wrong about Jacksonville. And I think we're probably all wrong. We're not wrong, but what we might have thought about Trevor Lawrence, it's just not happening. And I don't know if it's I don't know if it's him and Peterson and it's just not clicking because he does have skills, but he's just not the guy that I thought he was coming into this league.
It's more than that. He's just it's not, I'm not going to listen, I'm not a Peterson fan. But I'm not going to blame Peterson for this guy. And
Go
this
back
guy,
and listen to Jason. What Jason said last week, because it bore out in the game a little bit. He's dumb.
he's dumb.
Put him in the dumb quarterback category. He's dumb right
Yeah,
now.
I think he's dumb. I think that's his problem.
I mean, he doesn't really. I mean, his accuracy is not anything special. He misses throws.
No, he was
All the
awful.
time.
He's got all the talent and what you would think for quarterback skills in the world, but he's just there's something not right.
16 to 31 last week, and some of those were way, way, way off.
Like the last interception was an embarrassment. Like that throw, I don't know what the hell he was doing on that.
No, he didn't give the receiver. I mean, Dean read the play, and they practiced a similar play, so he kind of knew what he took a guess that was what was going to happen. But Lawrence didn't give the receiver a chance.
He
at
threw it
all.
into the middle of the field on a jump
didn't he
ball.
throw
Yeah,
a jump ball
I mean-
to a running back too? Was that
running
yeah?
back.
He threw a jump ball to a
Yeah,
running
running
back. Like that's dumb.
Yeah, them as just a team in general, just are extremely disappointing because they're not a bad. Well, they weren't supposed to be a bad
Well, he's going to
defensive
get
team.
fired. I mean, Peterson
They're-
will be
they're not.
fired the Monday morning
Yeah,
after this.
but didn't they stink last year? And we thought they were coming off this season where
Yeah.
So I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, you go back to, of course, the comeback win against the Chargers in the playoffs, and you thought, okay, next year this is the leap that Jacksonville is going to take.
Didn't they?
Well,
And they
they
lost.
lost last
Didn't they lose the last game of the season to Indiana? Like not make the. And it was like they had an easy schedule to reject. There was something last year.
Yeah. Peterson's gone. He's gone. He'll be fired.
What's your answer to this, Tommy? What team surprised you?
Well,
the
I
most?
mean, I got a bunch, but I mean, I know this question's for right now. The only thing I'll say is like, what was Green Bay? Green Bay was like 5-5 last year, and then they went on they won 6 games in or 7 games in a row and almost made it to the so like we're saying a lot of these teams we're saying easily could go on a 5-6 game winning streak, and now they're like back in. You know what I mean? So who knows? I mean, Jets like in first look. I mean and it's not the Jets, the record right now. They don't look like they're going to be a good team. I mean, so they're disappointing. A team that I'm surprised, and I think the record is actually not as good as they look at times. Is the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons, they look like a pretty good team if you watch them play. Their offense can hum. I mean, they have something about them though that holds them back, but they're better than I thought they were going to be. Arizona is a better team than I thought they were going to be. I mean, Arizona is right now in first place. Obviously, San Fran's, if they get McCaffrey back, but I still think NFL. It's still a little early. It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, I'm just looking through some of these. Dallas. Did anybody have Dallas at 3-5 and looks like, they're on their way to tank it till the rest of the season? I don't know. Miami's 2-6. I mean, nobody thought Miami was a world beater, but 2-6. And
yeah, I had them in the AFC.
I mean, Tua got hurt there, but they're still not good, even with Tua back.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not. They didn't look great with him there. So
no.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just, Chargers are 5-3. Have you ever watched the Chargers play? How are they 5-3?
They got good defense.
That's pretty much the reason. I think
That's pretty much it.
And they got Herbert. Herbert's playing pretty good. Herbert's playing well.
Yeah,
but
I mean, he doesn't have eye-popping numbers aside from one interception, but he's not being asked to do a lot. So he's got, he's on pace for 20 touchdowns in the year, but he's not making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what team not currently slotted as a playoff team if the season were to end today ends up making it? And vice versa. What team that would be and is in the playoffs right now do you think will not make the playoffs? Jason.
Well, I think the 49ers are going to win the division. So right now they're out of the playoffs. And I think Arizona will not make the playoffs.
Okay. Chalky?
I mean, that's the obvious one. I'm seeing if there's another one I can come up with. I would say Cincinnati bumps Denver out in the AFC, but yeah, most likely, like Jason said, is 49ers win that division and nobody else from that division, or at least not Arizona, makes the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll go here. I thought 49ers were kind of a layup for me. I still think they'll make the playoffs, and they're really only a game out. But I think the Rams will make the playoffs. They wouldn't make it today, but I think that the Rams have a good shot at making the playoffs. And I think Denver also will not make the playoffs. Whether it's Cincinnati knocking them out or another AFC team, I don't think their offense is good enough or their quarterback play is good enough to make the playoffs. But there's so many teams that make the playoffs right now. I mean, 7 teams in each conference. It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I'm looking at that now, Meeker. Because all right, so after Denver, it's Colts and Bengals tied. We're 4 and 5. Then it's the Jets at 3 and 6. So we just said don't look like anything. Tennessee, Miami. I guess Miami could make the run, but like there's Tommy was talking about teams last year. Like Love was a young quarterback, and they have a very good coach there. I can't make a case for almost any of these teams in the AFC. Is like who else is going to jump up? Like there might be Cincinnati, because Indianapolis. I mean, if Flacco plays like he did last week, they're going to end up with 5 wins. So
yeah, it just goes back to what I said. I mean, there's basically 13 teams that are essentially done already. Like their season's done at the halfway point of the season. But yeah, I mean, Cincinnati, it's a team that I can see an 8-9 team in the AFC making the playoffs this year. A team that, has more losses than wins. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, what they said is pretty obvious. I mean, one team I'm real down on, and I know they got 6 wins already, so it's hard for them not to, but I think Minnesota stinks. I think Sam Darnold is awful. And you watch him, he had 3 turnovers in the last game, and who'd they beat? Tennessee? I don't even remember. Indianapolis, right? Because Flacco was completely immobile.
It was so bad.
I didn't watch the game, but I went on Twitter and people were saying like they got to put Richardson in. And I was like, oh God, what's going on?
Before you go on, so one of the last drives of the game in the fourth quarter, it was 4th and like 6 or 7, no, 4th and 4 or something like that. And the running back is wide open in the flat, and he forces the ball down the field.
Oh yeah. And
oh my God! Oh yeah, that's what it was. It was third and 4, maybe it was. Oh.
So Minnesota for me, I like Sam Darnold is a bad quarterback. He didn't magically become good. For a couple games he threw the ball up to Jefferson and it worked. He's not, and the defense is starting to not look as good as they did in the beginning of the season. So Minnesota is my sleeper team to fall out of the playoffs, and they're 6-2, which they would have to lose a lot,
but that's a tough division.
And yeah, right, that's true. I mean, they already played Detroit once, but yeah, they have to play Detroit. Chicago looks good at times, so.
And I think the left tackle, they traded for a tackle, but their left tackle's out for the year, so that could Darnold could really suffer with that.
So yeah, they're my team to miss. And then the Niners they're going to win that division. I mean, like Jason said.
So what player this year has surprised you the most? Like you didn't expect what you're seeing out of him. And it could be a rookie or it could be a guy that, just is bouncing back. What player do you think this year has surprised you the most? We'll start with you, Chalky.
I mean, I'll stick to the Eagles. I think DeJean and
Mitchell.
Mitchell. Yeah, I was going to say 27. I couldn't think of his name. They've both exceeded expectations so far. I mean, I thought Mitchell was a defensive rookie of the year candidate, which he is. But he seems to be. They're not throwing the ball in his direction at all. And even with Slay out, they weren't throwing at him last week. And Rodgers was holding his own on the other side. So they've both been nice surprises. And Barkley's been better than average. I expected Barkley to be good, and he's been pretty damn good, better than I was expecting. And on the other side, I would say not Eagles players. I mean, Stroud had a great rookie year, so it's like, okay, they got a year worth of film, and how are they going to? But he's playing well still. So I expect him to do well, but he's probably exceeding my expectations at this point.
Tommy?
I mean, Daniels is the obvious one. I mean, he's rookie of the year easily. He's won offensive rookie of the week 7 out of the 9 weeks. So, and it's easier to say with a rookie, obviously, because you don't know the expectations. But I mean, I didn't see that coming at all. So I think that's the obvious one. I like Chalky's Mitchell and DeJean. I thought that was a pretty good one because I mean, you figured they're going to be decent, but I don't think anybody thought they'll be as good as they're playing right now this early. But it goes to show you, I think rookies have an advantage in this with this question because your expectations are kind of lower on those.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk Eagles, I would say Bourne.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
you got to say Daniel. I mean, Daniels was what, 200 or 300 to 1 to win MVP, and now he's 12 to 1. I mean,
Yeah,
nobody
a rookie
expected.
to be in the MVP candidate conversation is crazy.
I mean, he legitimately has a chance. I mean, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up Zach Bond. So I have a little bit of history with him, being a Saint for about 5 years or so before he came to the Eagles, and I was going to bring it up actually during the time that we're going to talk about the Eagles. I don't know what has happened to this guy, but he was nowhere near the player he's been on the Eagles. So if we're talking about an Eagle, I would certainly go Zach Bond. He's played outstanding since he's been in Philly. Daniels obviously is the easy answer to this question when it comes to the rookies or offensive side of the ball. You slot in you talk about these three quarterbacks, Caleb Williams and Daniels, and why is the other guy a mistake? Just
Knicks.
blanking on
Knicks.
May or Knicks. Yeah, I mean, those other guys have struggled pretty much, this year. Where this guy is, basically revitalized the franchise in 1 year, and now they're contenders, to win the NFC. And that's surprising to me on a lot of levels. I didn't think he was as good as he was, but I didn't think that team was that good, and he's elevated the play of that team to where now we're talking about them possibly going to an NFC championship. Not saying that's going to happen, but
And the one thing I'll say, and I know I continuously say this, and it comes off a certain way, but the Daniels and the Williams are the quarterbacks that can be successful in their first year to 2 years in the NFL because they use their legs and their athleticism to get out of situations, and then their body breaks down. Their tendencies are figured out, just like Hurts. You can't go this way, you go that way, and then they stink and they're out of the league. So although Daniels is looking good now, I think he has the most potential of all those quarterbacks to fall off a cliff after year 2, where Knicks or May might improve.
The
one thing I would say though is that he's throwing at 70-something% completion
Yeah, but
percentage.
it comes off the thread of the run, it comes off the thread of the scramble, it comes off the thread of the ball. I mean, it's all driven off of that.
The one thing I do like about Daniels is he seems to make the right decisions,
which is
right?
big. We said that about Stroud last year. Why we like Stroud?
Yeah, he seems to and I'll point to that Bengals game that knocked us out of the friggin' Survivor. Like he played a flawless game, like decision wise, not only with throwing and running or just making the right decisions. Was flawless
Yeah,
in that game.
but that comes from confidence in, like, you know, once the adversity is there, once that he likes to go left, and they take that or they simulate the pressure,
No,
they think that, and that's
I
gone.
agree.
You don't know what you don't know where the mind goes as far as will the decisions continuously be correct.
No,
Maybe they will
I
be.
agree.
Yeah.
He's also like 24, right? I mean, so he's older than some of these quarterbacks coming in late because he played for 3 different schools, I think it ended up being or whatever. So, I mean, and he played at big name schools, so it's not like he's coming out of SMU or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, it seems like, look, I'm not watching a lot of Washington, but Kingsbury's getting a lot of credit for helping him adapt to the league. So, Maybe he has the right coordinator to work with. Yeah, but
I think
I
he's
mean, he
gonna.
hasn't the last couple games. I don't think he's like they scored like 9 points against the Bears or 10 points against. Besides that, Hail
Yeah,
Mary, so he's
I
coming off a
think
rib injury.
I think Kingsbury's gonna get a job off of this. I
yeah,
think
it's possible.
he might get one more chance somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, Meeker.
and
One,
what you're
one,
saying
oth- one other guy too, Meeker, and it's not a surprise, but I do give some credit to is Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry's still running the ball at his
it's
age
crazy.
just as well as he's ran the ball, in Tennessee at a younger age. And he was a guy like, similar to Barkley, like Chalky said, like going to another team at the age of whatever he is, 30, like I could see him falling off a cliff, and he is not. He's still running the ball very well. So a little bit of a surprise on him as well.
A lot of that has to do with just his mindset and conditioning. I saw a show on how crazy he is, with preparation, with his workout regimen and all that. So some of these guys, they want to stay in the league longer. They want to continue to get paid and be playing at a high level. This is the type of things you have to do. And getting back to what you were talking about with, the comparison of Daniels versus like Caleb Williams, that's the guy that doesn't make the right decisions. We talk about, Jason was saying how Jaden Daniels is making all the right decisions. Caleb Williams is not making all the right decisions. And there's some games that the Bears probably should have won had they had him making the right decisions. So that's been a pretty big difference between these two quarterbacks, these two rookie quarterbacks. All right. So that's my mid-year 5 questions. So if you guys want to move on to
Yeah,
Eagles, we can do
perfect.
that now.
All right, quickly we'll talk Eagles. Eagles Jacksonville. So Eagles got up early, um, held on in the end to win by 28-23. Did not cover the spread. Uh, Eagles look good. I mean, their defense is starting to look really good. Their offense at times look good. Mr. Glass. I mean, AJ Brown got hurt again and missed the second half of the game. And their offense started to sputter after that, and but Hurts made all the right decisions. He had that one pass that was almost picked off, but other than that, he didn't really put the ball in harm's way. He's making the right decisions, and the touchdown he scored, was a option on a run for him to run or hand it off, and he made the right decision. Um, but coming out of the game, the Sirianni decisions have been like the talk of the week. So Jason, your thoughts? I mean, however, wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles dominated the game. The yards was 447 to 215. Dominated. Hurts played well, like you said. The Barkley turnover obviously shouldn't have happened, although that's still being sloppy with the ball because he's laying on the ground. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, how does the ball pop out there? Shouldn't have happened, but it did. Um, Sirianni decisions. The only one I didn't like was the one where he took points off the board to go to 4th and 1. Right? You took the field goal off the board, not for a first down. I think that's a mistake. But as far as like going for two, yeah, when you get to the 1 yard line, almost everybody goes for two, right?
Nah, the
And
only thing
especially,
is you were up the difference between 16, 17, and 18 in that one
but
situation.
in
Like,
the first half of the game, I mean, is it
yeah, I
that
don't have
big?
a problem. My biggest problem with Sirianni's decisions and any coach's decisions, like, so Hurts scored the touchdown where Fred Johnson got hit low. If you watch, Hurts banged his head really hard on that play. He got up not looking 100%. They did a tush push. If you watch, he wanted no parts of that tush push. Hurts. He gave like a half-ass effort because he was like, to me. There's times where, and I know it messes up the numbers when you don't always go off the numbers, but like Sirianni doesn't use, and it's not gut. I mean, you can call gut, but like at some times you just gotta know, like, look, my players just had a really tough drive. Hurts got banged up. Let me just take the extra point here, not put my players like in another situation. You know what I mean? That's my problem with some of the decisions. It's not that they were the wrong decisions. I just don't think he really gets the feel of like where the players are at that moment when the decision is made. It's all about the numbers. Jason,
Any more, Jay?
Yeah.
That's all for
Anything
me.
else
Yeah,
to
that's
add?
all.
Oh,
No, that's all I have. That's all I have.
Chalky.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Sirianni's decisions because the numbers do back it up, especially from the 1 yard line. I would say that 23 versus 22. I would agree with Tommy on that. You need to do that. But the other thing I think, if you're him, you're probably thinking of is like Peterson is aggressive. He was going for two every time they got it, even though he didn't need to every time. So trying to stay one step ahead when you have the odds in your favor at the 1 yard line, I have no beef with that. Um,
Yeah, but then
the only
why go for a field goal then? And at the end, that's questionable.
Well, I think so. That's part of the thing I was going to say. Is I think the fact that they settled for the field goal at the end, a 57-yarder or whatever it was, is a switch from what we saw in the Atlanta game, where Sirianni was like, "I'll take the shot to go up 8 with a long field goal because I have faith in my defense that they're going to keep him out of the end zone." And the reason they didn't run the ball 3 times against Atlanta and keep the clock running was because he wanted to end the game because he didn't have faith that that defense in that game was going to stop Atlanta on the way back, and it was bore out. Where I have an issue with the decision is when they went for it. I think it was in the fourth quarter. They could have kicked a field goal to go up 9, which would have been 2 scores, I think. And they went for it on 4th and 1, and it was a terrible play call because that was literally. I mean, it was literal inches. You could have did the tush push
It was less.
and gotten
Yeah,
it.
it was less than an inch.
So
But that
if
was
you're going
the
to go
play.
for it, don't run that play.
The guy was wide open, and Hurts doesn't throw the ball though.
No, but I mean, I don't think I'd spook was like that. The first 2-point conversion, they got it. I mean, they didn't call in the field, and they didn't want to overturn it, but they got that. You can see it online. They show that you got it. Second one was clear as day, but that sort of spun after that. I would have kicked it. You go up 9, and now they need 2 scores, and I would have stopped it. That's the one. That's the one criticism of his play calling that I would have. But I actually had a little bit different take. I thought the offense was more inconsistent in the first half as opposed to the second half. I was worried they would be inconsistent in the second half without Brown, but I thought they played pretty well. Their 2 first half touchdowns were on short fields off of turnovers, so they didn't really have any big long drives. But I mean, Jacksonville was just bad. I mean, Barkley goes 20-something yards untouched in the half, and then the first drive of the second half, Hurts goes 20 yards untouched. Like, they're not getting a hand on them. Like, 22-0, you figure this is going to be a walk in the park, and then bad luck and other things made it close. But yeah, it was Jacksonville is a very, very bad team right now. So
yeah, I mean, well, that was the reason they went untouched too, because on the Hurts touchdown, they had a whole team sold out to go after Barkley, so Hurts just kept the ball and when with the most egregious thing by Sirianni though, it was 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 with 2:18 left in the game. Jacksonville had 1 timeout, and you have a 2-minute warning. And they ran like the dumbest run play right up the middle, and they got stopped for no yard. How do you not throw the ball there? The team has a timeout and a 2-minute warning. So stopping the clock or using a timeout is mean. So you don't. Isn't that where you go for the first down to win the game? And you run a stupid run play straight up the middle? That, to me, that was the most egregious thing that nobody talks about, was the decision to run, where we were talking about the Falcons, where it actually made a little more sense to run the ball because you were going to run actual clock, and he threw the ball. So it's like, my problem is I don't think he has too much WIP and fans in his head when he makes some of the decisions, is my problem with Sirianni. So, Meeker?
Yeah, I mean, it was looking like it was going to be an easy game until it wasn't. They let the Jags back in the game and somehow came dangerously close to losing if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence, finding Nakobe Dean in the end zone instead of his wide receiver. But the big thing about football is that you capitalize on mistakes, and the Eagles capitalized on the 2 Jaguar mistakes. Jacksonville mistakes in the first half. They turned that into 13 points. Followed that up with a 78-yard run drive capped by the Hurts run. Gave them the cushion that they needed to win the game. But a lot of crazy things happen in that second half, and then they answer with that great catch by Smith until the interception at the very end. What can you say about Barkley? If every year a quarterback wins MVP in this league, but ask yourself this question: if Saquon Barkley is not on this team, where is this team? Are they a 6-2 team? I highly doubt it. I mean, you can basically just depend on him getting 5 or 6 yards every time he touches the ball. and he's basically been, if not the MVP of the league, he's definitely the MVP of the team. Zach Bond, we talked, the aforementioned Zach Bond has turned into a real player, and their defense is definitely, gradually week by week getting better and better. Now they haven't played great quarterbacks except Burrow.
We'll see.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know, they haven't played great quarterbacks except for Burrow, but they've played pretty well, and Carter and Sweat and DeJean and Mitchell all graded out pretty well this week. But health is a thing. So if you're going to lose Brown for a game, it seems like he's going to play, right? So is that what the situation is right now? He's going to play on Sunday.
He's
Yeah, he's playing.
practicing, so it looks like it. Yeah.
And
I
it
think
looks
it's
like Crowder's
important.
playing too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that important for this game, but it's important for the future of this team. I mean, they need to be healthy. They need to all stay on the field for them to continue this hot streak. But they won 4 in a row. They're probably going to win 5 in a row. Things are looking up despite some of these decisions that their coach is making.
Okay. All right. Well, on to Dallas then. And Jason, what do you think? Eagles, Dallas. Dak's not playing. CeeDee Lamb's not playing. Parsons is playing or not playing? Did they say yet?
He was on track to play. I didn't see
He's gonna
anything
play.
today, but he was looking like he would play.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think. Okay.
No, I was gonna say
Okay.
I think the line's 7. Last I looked,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
7.5.
but it was
7.5.
like minus 115.
It's going back and
Yeah.
forth between
Yeah.
7 and 7.5. Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think CeeDee Lamb is a bigger miss for them than Dak. I don't think there's a huge difference between Dak and Cooper Rush. I mean, Rush played well when Dak didn't play in recent years. I don't think Dak's that good. I mean, obviously, he's not one of my top 11 quarterbacks. So I don't see a huge difference there. And you know what happens when a backup quarterback comes in? The team usually kind of rallies around them in the first game. But Dallas is still bad. Obviously, the defense still stinks. They're going to miss CeeDee Lamb. I think 7.5 is too much, though. I'll go right on the line at 24-17 for the Eagles to win.
All right, Chalky.
Somewhat similar to Jason. Now, Lamb hasn't been ruled out. He did limited practice today, so there's a chance, I guess, he ends up playing. So it's not 100% that he's out.
If he
unless
plays,
they just-
that's going to make a big difference. If he plays,
Yeah. And I would agree, and we got the Cooper Rush experience 2 years ago, and he won some games for him, but he also looked awful in the Eagles game that the Eagles played against him. And I'm thinking, Kellen Moore knows him pretty well, so maybe Moore's got some insight to share on how to play him better. These are the type of games where, I mean, almost similar to, say, the Jacksonville game. We've seen the 2 times they've beaten Dallas last couple of years. They get out earlier and get a couple score lead, and then Dallas gets back in the game a little bit. So I'm going to agree with Jason that I don't think they end up covering, whether it's just closer than it should be or it's a backdoor. I got 27-23 Eagles.
Meeker.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, the Cowboys limp into this game. What, 3 straight losses? Eagles have won 4 straight. As we talked about, the Eagles' defense is looking better week to week, and they haven't played a whole lot of great quarterbacks. And this is not a great quarterback. But their running game can't pick up the slack. I mean, their running game is horrific. And the Eagles' running game is one of the best in the league, and this is not a good run defense. And this is where I see the big gap. And I think if AJ Brown plays and he's not hampered by his injury, this game could get kind of ugly as long as the Eagles keep the ball out of harm's way and continue to surge defensively and Sirianni doesn't make any stupid mistakes. So I have the Eagles winning big here. I have them winning 34-16.
All right, and then I'm closer to Jimmy and Jason. I don't see a lot of points scored in this game. I don't think Dallas is going to put up a lot of points. I think the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot. I think it's going to be a lot of time possession type of game. I have it 17-10, so right on the number as well, right on the spread. I don't see a lot of points. I think this is a game that sits on the under. I can see the Eagles offense, just like I said, trying to control the ball. You might see a lot of Kenny Gainwell trying to give Barkley a little bit of a spell. So 17-10, right on the number. Guess it depends on where the line is. But the Eagles win the game, and I don't think it's like where they might lose the game. I just don't think it's going to be a blowout. Okay, so we turn it over to you, Jason.
All right, so we'll go over the league stats. Not nothing too crazy in the over under department. It was 7 overs and 8 unders last week, so it's 69 over, 66 under on the year. Public kind of fell back a little bit last week. They went 6 and 9. So the public is now 67 and 69 on the year. The podcast once again did not have a great week. We will start with Chalky. Chalky did go 2-1. He won the under on the Chargers and Browns as his best bet. He did have the under on the Patriots and Titans. But then he lost on the under of the Commanders and Giants. Meeker also went 2-1. He lost his best bet with the Bears and Cardinals over, but he won with the Rams, which he shouldn't have, but he did. And he won with the Bucks covering on Monday night. I went 1-2. I hit my best bet with the Chargers winning. Joe Flacco did me in with the Colts not covering. And then I should have won the Seahawks game, the game that Meeker should have lost.
No.
Yeah, I should have won that game. But I did not. So I went 1-2. Jimmy D did not have a good week last week. He went 0-3, unfortunately. So he lost the Browns. We were head to head on that one. He had the Browns as his best bet. He lost with the Packers, and then he also was done in by Joe Flacco. Tommy did not submit picks. So we will go to our year records for the year. Chalky is 16-10. He is a profit of $479, 62% win, an ROI of 18%. I am 500, 13-13. I am a loss of $125. Like I said, 50%, and a profit loss of 5%. Meeker is 12-14. He has a loss of $524. He's a 46% win percentage, negative ROI of 12%. Tommy is 9-15. Loss of $682, 38% win, negative loss of a profit loss of 28%. And for the year, and this includes Omar and Jimmy D, we are 51-55 with a loss of $863, 48%, minus 8.1% ROI. And overall, I am 76-55, profit of $1,384, 58% win, 11% ROI. Tommy 62-62, loss of $335, 50% win percentage, negative 8% ROI. Chalky 65-67, loss of $720, 49% win, negative 5% ROI. Meeker 62-66, loss of $1,009, 48% win, negative 8% ROI. Overall, we're 265-250, loss of $680, 51% win, negative 1.3% ROI.
Let me ask you guys a question before we get into our picks. I mean, the question I asked earlier about the quarterback play, and we all discussed that. I have to think this is making it so much harder to pick these games because the quarterback play is so unpredictably bad that it's like, not that what you expect is not going to happen, but it's just difficult to pick games because some of these guys are so bad. You're like knocking out 14, 15 teams because you don't trust your quarterback.
Is that your excuse?
I don't know. It's not my excuse. I just think that it's hard to. Well, look at the numbers this year. Like our numbers this year. I think that's the reason why. It's part of the reason why.
I don't know, Maker. You're in last place. Sounds like an excuse.
I'm not in last place this year. We're talking about this year.
Well, when you look at the grand scheme of things, with
I'm not talking about the
hundreds of
grand scheme.
picks,
I'm talking about this year
you're last place.
by a game. Okay, move on.
By more.
Okay, some things I saw. Last week the favorites were 14-1 straight up, which is
Joe
this,
Public Week.
this is could be misleading, but that's only the third time in 15 years that the favorites had 14 plus wins. I don't know how many times do they play 15 games every, like at least the match games, but still.
Yeah.
Let's see, last 5 weeks, I think.
Who was the dog that won last week?
Who was the dog that
Don't know.
won last week?
I can't even think. I'm not sure.
Was the Rams?
No, the Panthers.
Oh. That was
Who was
bad.
it? I'm
The
sorry.
coach
I
fired.
think I froze.
Panthers beat the Saints. Panthers beat the Saints.
Oh,
Panthers.
and that's Jesus God. The Lions have in the last 55 games have covered the spread 73%, which is insane.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
Road favorites, road favorites continue to dominate 33-18-2. It's the best in the last 20 years for road
Yeah,
favorites.
see that's Joe Public. That is totally Joe Public. Road
And you have
favorites.
7 road favorites this week, so we'll see how the trend continues. I forget where I was with who was first in the order as I was out last week, so I'll just start back at the beginning, and we'll have Chalky go first.
The one thing I'll say to that is that you really should have had a chance for 2 underdogs, because why Tampa didn't go for 2 and just end the game on Monday night? That was dumb, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. This week, best bet is going to be under 39 in the Titans-Chargers game. That is minus 110. Second pick is going to be under 50.5 in the 49ers Tampa Bay game, the aforementioned Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's minus 110. And third pick, this isn't a reverse jinx or nothing. Like I said, I don't think the Eagles cover 7. Right now it's 7.5 on DraftKings, so I'm going to take Dallas plus 7.5 minus 115.
Okay, Meeker.
Okay, best bet this week is going to be the Bears minus 6, minus 110 against New England at home. My second is the Jets minus 2, minus 108 against Arizona. I feel like that's kind of a shady line. Why are they giving points?
Chalky, are you?
He's good. He's good so far.
Okay.
And my third is under 46 in Atlanta, New Orleans. That's minus 108. I don't know if Saints could even score points anymore. So,
Okay, and Chalky, I will need validation on these because I looked early today, so they may have changed. We did this before, but 39 teams have fired their coach. They are 22-17 against the spread in the week following. So I'm going to go with the Saints at plus 3.5 as my best bet against Atlanta, minus 110. I said it before. I don't see why the Chargers should be given 7.5 points to any team in the NFL. Although Tennessee would arguably be the one team that they could be given 7.5 to.
So
But I will
technically,
go with
they are
Tennessee
not.
plus
Technically, they are
7.
not giving 7.5 right now. They are only giving 7.
Oh, that dropped. So what's the juice on it now?
If you want the Titans, it's even money. If you want the Chargers minus 7, it's minus 120.
Yeah, so that they basically dropped the juice on that and made it 7.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Can I pull it? So I've done this before from what I've told.
If you want to buy the hook, you can do that.
Oh, you want to buy
I'm
points?
gonna buy.
Yeah.
You like to buy?
Oh
points?
no! You know what? I'm going to switch my pick to. Let me see. Bengals first quarter.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you buy
Okay, that
points on
one.
that too? You can buy points in the Bengals first quarter too.
All right, and then my last pick is
So I'm sorry, that was
and this
Titans +7.
+7, yeah. Titans
Plus
+7.
100, right? Even money. Yeah.
Yeah, even mine.
And then this last one is my old, like, whenever I go on the Vegas Insider site and I see a underdog with the money, I always like the favorite. So that's Washington -3, -102 against Pittsburgh, where the money is on Pittsburgh right now, coming off the bye.
And what is it? Minus three, minus
102.
102. Yeah.
two. Wow. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go back to the well again with my boy Joe Flacco. I like the Colts +4 against the Bills. This is a big time sandwich game for the Bills. They are looking ahead to next week where they have the Chiefs. They just had a division game where they beat Miami. Colts came off a big, bad loss. I like the Colts +4 in that game. I don't know if they'll win the game outright, but they're going to keep that close. I'm going to take the Broncos +7, and the Colts was -112. Chalky.
Yep.
Okay.
112.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with the Broncos against the Chiefs. That should be +7.5, -108. That was the last I saw. That change.
Broncos is +7.5, -112.
-112. Okay. That was 8 all day, by the way, and that changed. So now the juice changed. So
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna keep it. Chiefs they win. They just keep winning, but they keep it's one score games. Broncos got embarrassed last week. Division game. I think they'll bounce back a little bit. I still think the Chiefs win, but they'll keep that close. And then my last pick's going to be the 49ers -6, -110. Niners are getting back McCaffrey. I think they're getting back Jennings, coming off a bye. They
So
need
that's
the game.
bumped. That's gone up to 6.5.
It's 6.5 now. All
Yeah.
right, and it's
Still 110. They didn't change the
110.
juice.
Okay. Getting back all those guys coming off the bye. Tampa Bay is coming off a Monday night loss, so it's a short week for them. It's a long layoff for the 49ers. Coming back, need the game. Bucks defense stinks. I think 49ers get back on track and cover.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Chalky? You want to give out your Eagles touchdown guy that you always do?
I don't have that. I gave you Kate Otten at +2 whatever last week, so that was as good as we're going to get.
He gave you out Kate. He was the only one that hit on our last week for.
I'm looking at 15 on both. Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar probably gets in the end zone this week.
Oh, you're pulling a maker.
No, why? What?
Oh,
Baltimore plays Sunday. Oh,
you didn't
Baltimore
know the
plays
game
now.
started?
No, I thought they played Sunday.
Well, Tommy did that. Tommy did that before.
No. Can I buy Aguilar over a half?
Little housekeeping. We will not be previewing the Eagles next week as they play on Thursday because we will be recording on Friday. So we will recap the game of Eagles Washington, but we will not be previewing it. So a little housekeeping note for everybody who's listening. Episode 132, Broad Street Hustle. Have a great night.